Hello there, dearest friends, What Culture of Wrestling's Adam Cleary here, and you may have noticed that very recently we did 10 things nobody wants to admit about AEW, and that seemed to go down relatively well. But the thing is, every single week, right, I stand in this same studio in front of this same camera, and I suspect a lot of the same audience, and talk about how great I think NXT is. I give it loads of ups and hardly any downs, and loads of people in the comments are like, you shouldn't be doing this video, you're clearly biased towards NXT. But the thing is, right, I was on a podcast the other week where we were talking about the Dusty Tag Team Classic, and I said that NXT shouldn't be doing that because their tag team division was really underwhelming. They should have better developed some teams before pushing ahead with the competition for them. And loads of people took the time to tweet me to say my anti-NXT bias means I shouldn't have done that video. The fuck? I think that maybe the lesson here is that some people on the internet, not you obviously, confuse having a different opinion with having a biased opinion, but it shouldn't be a bad thing. Having a different opinion is what makes life interesting. We can't all agree on everything all of the time. But again, when we decided that we wanted to do 10 things nobody wants to admit about NXT, the problem became, how do we present that without people crying bias? And the solution was, take the person who's allegedly biased for NXT and have them do this article, in which people will say I'm biased against NXT. It should be fun. So yes, that slightly confusing introduction to one side. My name is Adam Cleary, a man who loves NXT, and these are 10 problems nobody wants to admit about NXT. Number 10, the most basic mid-card feuds imaginable. Honestly, can you imagine a more basic or lazy setup for a match than man wears hat, other man steals his hat, both men have fight? Oh wait, sorry, what's that? You can imagine a more basic one, and it's babyface wrestler punches disrespectful heel wrestler to get a cheap pop. Ah, yes. That was a good one, that, when Tyler Bate took issue with Cameron Grimes' lack of sportsmanship because he just happened to be watching him at ringside and then hit him, and then they had a match, and just why? Then of course there was the time that Killian Dane appeared on a ramp to confront Pete Dunne. He then snapped his fingers, which he sold for way longer than was necessary to, and they just furthered that feud by beating each other up without doing any actual development. I don't care about Killian Dane was Pete Dunne's sole contribution to that story, which was of course worth it in the end because we got banger matches, and all the things I'm talking about here either did lead or will lead to a banger match, but we'll get to that in a little bit. It's just that there's no actual story here, there's no actual angle, there's no reason for this to be unmissable TV, and yet people tune in as if it's unmissable TV. It's usually worth it, yes, but it's really, really basic. Basically, the entire NXT formula for a mid-card rivalry is physical altercation, intense stare down, eye for an eye vengeance spot either during matches or backstage, banger blow-off match. It's not great. Number 9, the promos are not good. Whoa, they're not terrible. Nobody on the NXT roster who's getting a live microphone is terrible per se, but when you think about the standard of the in-ring work, the standard of the on-mic work just is nowhere near it. They're functional, yes, but they're always going to be when they're scripted for you by somebody else. Like, recently Adam Cole summoned Keith Lee to the ring. Adam Cole's a great speaker, by the way, and everybody was really hot on Keith Lee, and there should have been an explosive combination of the two of them, but Lee just spoke in really lame business talk. He spoke in catchphrases and marketing things, and it was just classic WWE. There was all this stuff about him being a moment maker and a game changer, and Cole said if he wants to make a moment, why doesn't he make one right here, right now? And it's all just straight off the first page of the WWE script writing promo handbook that they apparently batter people around the head with until they're incapable of any independent thought. And it was alright, like, don't get me wrong, it's just that anybody could have come out and said those exact words. There was nothing of Keith Lee in them, and this is just so indicative of the kind of promos NXT cuts. In fact, nothing sums this up better than Matt Riddle on the most recent episode, where he was giving it the whole, bro, it was like, Dunn was like, woo, and I was like, woo, and the bros rates were born, and everyone was like, wow, that's actually really funny. And it turned out later that Riddle had been given a script, binned it, and asked to do that instead, and it got over like that. It was actually funny and entertaining and felt like his character. It shows how infrequently they actually do that. Look, right, Kyle O'Reilly is a really funny performer, and he's never given a microphone or allowed to be funny, so he has to mime playing air guitar on his belt to try and get a laugh out of people on the way down the ramp. He's trying his best, he's doing his best, but he's just not being given that kind of opportunity because the standard of the promos in this company is below average. Number 8, the in-ring action is getting dangerous. We are monitoring Tommaso Ciampa closely. He may have to change up his style. People like to play armchair doctor on Twitter, but WWE takes care of their talent and has access to the best doctors and training teams. That was Triple H on the 20th of November 2019, and smash cut to 3 days later, Ciampa takes one of the most dangerous spots in NXT history off the top of that war game structure. The reason for this is because since the move to a Wednesday night, they are now not just at war in terms of the ratings and in terms of what channel people are watching, they are at war with AEW for social media traction. They need to win the GIF war as much as they need to win the Wednesday night war, and compelling in-ring wrestling with good moves and all this doesn't really get gifted and shared around, but massive dangerous spots do. We've got 2 pretty bad examples of this recently, right? In an effort to make the Forgotten Sons seem interesting, instead of breaking their characters down and building them back up and giving them a series of interesting wins, they just had them chokeslam Leon Ruff out of the ring and on to the apron, which there is just no real safe way to take that. And then, 3 days before War Games, they had Mia Yim work a dangerous ladder match with Io Shirai. There was 2 really bad botches slash just dangerous spots in that. The first one was she got it in the moi, and the second one where she fell off and cracked a rib. 3 days before War Games. 3. Like, yes, I know they know what they're doing, they're trained professionals, they understand the risks, etc., but even booking a ladder match 3 days before War Games undermines everything Triple H was saying about the priority being the safety of the workers. It's not. The priority is the ratings. Number 7, an air of desperation. Just want to go back to that for a second. NXT booked 2 ladder matches ahead of War Games to give either side an advantage in the match. That is Vince Russo levels of gimmick match overkill. Why would you do it? Yes, of course, they were really exciting at the time, and I think I gave both matches an up in the context of the show, but there's just no logical reason to book that. If anything, it puts people at a disadvantage because you're putting one of your people in a ladder match before they go into a double-caged, brutal War Games match. It's desperate. Didn't inform the storyline, didn't inform the narrative, didn't really inform anything going on with those wrestlers. It was just designed to beat AEW in the ratings that night, or at least claw some viewers back off it, to just chip away at that audience gap. And it's just, they should be writing this in isolation. They should be producing the best possible product they've got, not constantly casting eyes over the channel divide. It's not even just stuff like this either. Like, Adam Cole has burned through Matt Riddle, who is a ratings grabber, and Finn Balor, who is a huge name on television in title defenses, where previously NXT would take months crafting each individual title challenge for when it was good and ready. They are just throwing everything at AEW, and as I say, it's desperate. And again, don't get me wrong, those ladder matches were really entertaining. Adam Cole versus Finn Balor was really entertaining. Adam Cole versus Matt Riddle was really entertaining. As a fan, I enjoyed the hell out of them, but you can just see, like, the cogs turning backstage and what's informing all of this, and it's a worrying sign. Number 6, Mauro Ranallo. I really like Mauro Ranallo as a commentator. I do make a little joke out of him every now and then when I pull up some of the lines he's used. Yes, I admit that, but as a commentator, I really like him. To me, he is the voice of NXT, and NXT is my favorite wrestling show. But I constantly find myself having to say this to other wrestling fans. I find myself having to defend him as a commentator. I find myself having to defend the stuff he says and the way he does it. I really like all of it, but he is a divisive figure. And a lot of the criticism around him stems from this idea that he's a bit over the top sometimes, that he sometimes gets carried away in the middle of matches where he should be saving himself for the end, that he takes the focus away from some of the stars, that he takes some of the focus away from his co-commentators. Again, I like the guy. He makes the product more exciting for me, but there's a lot of people out there who don't like it, and you don't want a commentary figure being the talking point of the show. Like, you want people to watch the matches. You don't want them to be coming away having to argue about who's calling it. And then, of course, there is that stuff that he likes to come out with, like, what have we got here? Tommaso Ciampa likes to call the NXT Championship Goldie, and much like an Oscar-winning actress, he is hoarding in on his opponent. Death will become Finn Balor if he continues to go overboard with that crutch. Now, that's actually Sidgwick, right? Sidgwick wrote that. That wasn't actually Mauro Ranallo. But you weren't sure, were you? It could have been. Look, right, I will fight every single one of you over Mauro Ranallo. He is great when he simmers down. He's one of the best in the business. I do not want him off that show. But the very fact of having to make all these qualifiers shows precisely the problem they've got with him. A lot of people aren't into it, and they need to somehow smooth that over. Number 5, too many stars are directionless. The 18 to 49 demographic is the holy grail for pro wrestling companies. Neither WWE nor NXT nor even AEW can really penetrate it as well as they would like to. Like, yes, I know AEW wins it on a Wednesday night, but they're still not getting as many of them as they would like. Now, that demographic flippin' loves Matt Riddle. He's almost the ultimate modern pro wrestler in terms of his personality and his legitimacy and his moveset. He can do 5-star banging classics, but also cut really entertaining promos. He is unlike anybody else in the business with his things that flip off and his hair and his catchphrase and all this. He's brilliant, and yet, since NXT's been on the USA Network, he's had really underwhelming feud with Killian Dane, lost his big match against Adam Cole, and then just meandered around and done nothing against a load of other mid-carders. You get the sense that NXT really wants to do something with Matt Riddle, but they don't know what, and they don't know when. Isaiah Swerve Scott is an outstanding head-turning talent who's been on and off television for months now. Dominik Dijakovic is brilliant, but his entire gimmick is that he just feuds with Keith Lee, sometimes as a friend and sometimes as an enemy. None of you at home really know what to make of Cameron Grimes. I certainly don't. And what you can take from that is that the writing team don't really know either. He was feuding with Kushida, and then he wasn't, and we don't really know what his crack is. And just on that last point, ask yourself, what was the most interesting thing about Cameron Grimes other than his hat when he debuted? His cave-in finisher. Now ask yourself, when was the last time you saw him win a match with a cave-in? Months ago. And just one more name for you all. I know he's going to be in the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic, and he should be a big part of the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic, but what are they doing with Kushida, man? Number 4, formulaic main roster booking. William Regal is probably the best wrestling general manager on television these days. He's only ever there to further someone else's storyline. He never makes it about him, and the sight of him lets you know something exciting is going to happen. But as a general manager, he is, in kayfabe, very bad at his job. So many times on the show, there is no actual main event set, and he just decides what's going to be halfway through, or it just kind of happens anyway. Recently, Rhea Ripley just cancelled her own match against Dakota Kai to allow Mia Yim to beat her up backstage. Yep, fair enough, I can see why she'd want to do that, but you got that power, have you? Now again, this is one of those things where 9 times out of 10, the matches we get as a result make it all worth it, all that mental chicanery, but so many times NXT comes on air without either the structure of the show being really set or even letting us know what's in store next week. And the only answer we have for that is the immersion breaking, well, it's just in the script, I guess. And you don't want to be thinking that when you're watching pro wrestling, because it's not supposed to be a script, is it? It's supposed to be people just beating each other up. Number 3, unforgivable main roster tropes. Now, I know I've already mentioned Kushida and Cameron Grimes, but I just want you to close your eyes for a second and imagine that the following takes place on an episode of either Raw or SmackDown. Kushida is supposed to be having a match against opponent A, but Cameron Grimes comes in out of nowhere, beats him up, and just forces his way into that match for no apparent reason. Kushida then has to steal a win against him by rolling him up. Fast forward a few weeks' time, and Kushida distracts Cameron Grimes by stealing his hat, allowing Raul Mendoza to roll him up for no apparent reason. You would read 100 hot takes, probably on this website, about how Vince McMahon yet again has ruined Japanese wrestlers. Vince McMahon, you would all say, what's that hat rubbish about? It's not an isolated incident, this kind of thing. Cameron Grimes stole one against Tyler Bate after he was distracted by Killian Dane, because apparently nobody learns anything. I was full of praise for the distraction finish in the Balor-Adam Cole match. I thought that was great because it made logical sense. Everyone was distracted by that, so of course Finn Balor would be, but it really did highlight what a rare occurrence that was. The same tired main roster tropes come up over and over and over again, forcing their way into a match, fighting just because, weak mid-card stuff, roll-up finishes, all of it. It just happened time and again, but we don't really judge NXT for it because we know usually the match that follows gonna be a banger, so they get away with it. And this is kind of the whole crux of this argument. A lot of stuff NXT does on the main roster would get absolutely savage, but we judge it on a scale that's kind of we forgive NXT a lot of things because it's not the main roster, because it doesn't let us down in the payoff normally, but that doesn't mean that the build-up should be devoid of criticism, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Number 2, a dismal tag team division. Just going to mentally snip out the upcoming Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic here because it's full of not actual tag teams to talk about the NXT Tag Team division and talk about it with the level of thought and care that NXT has put in to its tag team division. Right, you ready? That's it. There is one tag team on the entire roster who are worthy of a TakeOver Tag Team Championship match, and that tag team is the Undisputed Era. And they were in War Games last time, it's Worlds Collide next time. There's nobody on the roster to challenge them. Like, it's not the Forgotten Sons, they lose every week. Breezango are not taken seriously, then there's the... Where are you then? Only Lorcan and Danny Burch? No, that's not going to happen. The Singh brothers? Look, right, once this tournament is over, they need to fix this, and they need to fix this quickly. Like, I don't even care if it's Kushida and Alex Shelley. Just have credible tag teams and have them having credible tag team matches, please. Number one, there is but one feeling. Right, this is the one big... You know what, I'm saying big problem. It's not even a big problem. It's just the one glaring flaw in the entire DNA of NXT, right? From the Slipknot theme tune to Mauro Ranallo's commentary to the intimacy of Full Sail to the destruction to the beatdowns to everything, NXT can only do one emotion. And that emotion is like just... adrenaline! I am desperate to keep away from lazy AEW comparisons in this video, but I just need to make this one. Alright, AEW still does that kind of NXT critically acclaimed, intense wrestling match, but it also has Orange Cassidy, it does funny stuff, it has the Dark Order, it does like crazy stuff, and it also has Cody versus his brother way back when. That was heart-wrenching stuff. It has variety to its product. And NXT just doesn't, does it? Like, everything about it is like critically lauded wrestlers in the prime of their career trying to put on the best matches in the world, and that's fantastic, but that's all it is. There's no variety to it. Like, William Regal's on this brand, and if he was on any other brand in the world, he might come out of retirement, or he might get involved in a storyline, or he might do something where an old-timer gets one last hurrah or something like that. There's never going to be anything like that on NXT. It's just going to be the best wrestlers in the world trying to have critically acclaimed, lauded matches. And nothing wrong with that. Like, I love it, but at the same time, it's really shallow. And that's NXT's biggest problem. Like, even the main roster has a variety act to it. AEW is a great variety act. And while I love NXT, that's the kind of wrestling I would tune in for, regardless of anything else. It's just, you want to be a complete televised wrestling product, you need to have more strings to your bow than just the best string in the world. You have had insane endorphin rushes. And the reason this is, alright, slightly a problem is because if all you are trying to do is trigger an endorphin rush rather than tug at the heartstrings or get a giggle out of everybody, when that's all you're trying to do, looks kind of weird when it falls flat on its face. I was quite critical of the ending of the first show on the USA Network, where instead of a big story or development or something shocking, we just got broken bodies and a big melee, and I wanted more than that. I'm not complaining, I loved it, but I wanted more. So there you have it, those are 10 problems nobody wants to admit about NXT. And remember, if you want to say I'm biased against NXT in the comments, please do come back on Thursdays for NXT Ups and Downs, where you can join in with everybody saying I'm biased towards NXT then as well. Either way though, let me know what you made of it down below, and of course don't forget to like, share and subscribe. In the meantime though, thank you so much for watching. I've of course been Adam Cleary, hashtag on Thursdays, we wear yellow even though you hate NXT, and I'll see you soon. Bye.